Hello again. I wanted to talk a little bit about the thought of, maybe the question being, are you or are we afraid of learning about other religions? Are we afraid to read the books of other religions? And if so, honestly ask yourself why. Um, and I've been thinking about this a little bit, and it's either, and I trying to come up with an answer, and the only thing I can really come up with is if if I'm afraid to read a book or I don't want to read a book from another religion, usually it's coming from a place of, well, I just think it's wrong, so I'm not going to waste my time. Maybe it's coming from, maybe it's coming from a place of fear, like you feel like you're going to somehow change your belief, or somehow it's going to deceive you, or somehow it's going to mislead you, right? Um, and a lot of times I feel like when people are reading books of other religions, they are looking, they are literally looking for things to disagree with, right? Rather than looking for things to build their faith. Okay. We read books all the time. I'm sure you read books. I read books all the time. I don't always agree with everything in it, but I will definitely pull something out of it that builds on top of something that I believe, or something. It'll add to my knowledge in some way or another, right? So for for example, I've been reading the Quran. I want to read several other religious books, but I'm not reading it from a place of, hey, I want to try to find something wrong in here so I can go find somebody to argue with and tell them that they're wrong. I think the spirit of that is just wrong. Um, the idea that you would approach a religious book with the intention of using it as a tool to bash, or using it as a tool to lift up yourself, right, in a prideful way, to put yourself in a position of I'm above you because I'm right and you're wrong. I think when you approach a religious text, or really any text, whether it's religious or not, that 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 you're going to miss a lot of truths that could be in there, right? A lot of truths that could add value to you because you're open, and because your heart is softened enough that it would be open to receive, right? So I would challenge anyone to try to approach any type of learning with that type of attitude, right? Am I reading this because I want to prove that I'm right, and I want to, in case I run into someone, I can point out that they're wrong? Or am I reading it because I truly want to add to, or I want to find the truth? And I can't remember this quote. I basically it was along the lines of that there's when it comes to religion, there is truth out there, and to think that other religions don't have pieces of truth, and to think that you're 100% correct and everyone is wrong, I just think is not accurate. And so as I'm reading other religious texts, I know that even though I may not agree personally with some things, I know that there's a piece of truth somewhere, and that's what I'm seeking. I'm seeking that nugget of truth, and I want it to add to my faith. I want it to help me um, increase my relationship with God. And that's what I'm looking for. I have zero desire you know, to seek for negative things, right? I'm open, and I'm looking for truth. And I think if we approach any type of text with that, so I'm totally open to all texts, and I'm looking to build my faith. So let's talk about. So I've been reading the Quran. It's been an interesting read. I find a lot of really cool things in there that have added to my faith. But I wanted to talk about one thing I've actually really liked, and it mentions it in the Quran, which is the the idea of prayer being so critically important, right? I like one of the five pillars is the five daily prayers, right? And it does mention that several times throughout, at least what I've read so far. the importance of that. And obviously, in all religions, the idea of prayer is critical and important. But what I've tried recently, and as I've pulled this little nugget of truth out for me, is the idea of being more scheduled with my prayers. I love how they'll be more scheduled. I love the idea how they try to give that first prayer um, around sunrise or before the sun rises, and then throughout the day they'll give multiple other prayers. I've taken that challenge on. I said I love this. I love this schedule that they have. I love that the way they um, approach God so often. And obviously, I was praying before, but I wasn't doing it as consistently or as often. And so I challenged myself to do that, right? To be more consistent, to try and follow some type of schedule similar. And I found it to be very faith promoting, right? I found it as a way of strengthening my faith as I've tried to approach God more often, more consistently, um, in a reverent way, right? In a respectful manner. And that's another thing that I've learned as I've studied this other religion that has added to my faith, which is the manner in which God is approached is to be respectful, right? I don't think it's a good thing when we pray that we just, sloppily, just say a quick prayer, right? Which I get it. Sometimes that's if that's all we can do, that's all we can do. But generally, if we have the ability, we should approach God in a more reverent, sacred way, right? I love how the idea of prostrating yourself or the idea of going beyond just kneeling on your knees, um, as just a sign of respect. And I found that as you do that, um, you it begins to grow on you, and it begins to you know offering a prayer in a different way, in a less respectful manner, feels less respectful. And you don't like offering prayers in that way because your relationship with God is growing and your love for Him is deepened. So the idea of being more respectful, more thoughtful in your prayers, kneeling, um, prostrating yourself, um, and approaching prayer in a more sacred way is something that I've found that has increased my faith as I've studied a little bit more about Islam, Muslims, the Quran a little bit. And so I recommend it, right? I can see nothing but good if everyone that believes in God spent more time in prayer, made it more consistent, and approached God in a more sacred, reverent way rather than kind of just being a little bit, um, like I say, a little bit more laxed about it. Um, um, so hopefully, you would you know, take some of this information. Hopefully it's helpful. I encourage you to try the same. If you're not currently praying very often, increase your prayers. If you're try to find, something that I've done to try to find a quiet place, maybe a dedicated place in your home. The Bible talks a lot about your closet, praying in your closet. Find a quiet place, right? Treat it as that sacred place where you go to as often as you can. If you can do it 5 times a day, try it. Try it. I have tried it. I like doing it. Um, and it'll increase your faith, right? I think this is one of those amazing truths that is out there that we should all be taking advantage of to build our faith, to help strengthen our relationship with God and help us draw nearer to Him. So that's my message for today.